Hello, everyone. I'm Rob Smith of the In the Black VTF here at T3 Live with today's market wrap up to end up the week. So we got a little bring 'em in music at the end of the day here, or midday. So not the end of the world. If we take a look at, if you remember, just about this time last week, everybody talking about how it was inevitable to take all this stuff out. Well, that lasted about 5 minutes. Nice thrust bottom. Boom, right back up. And so we came in today and we had the unemployment numbers, and that's good and fine and dandy. But obviously, when you've run from 198 SPY and you start ripping through 207 in 1 week, we actually took out the entire monthly range and are now an outside month in 1 week of the entire January range. So not unusual to bring them back in a little bit. You also hear me talking about watching the importance of inside bars on all the different time frames. And if you take a look at the SPY here, 60, right here, we get up in here and we go inside on the 60. Couldn't make a higher high, couldn't make a lower low. And so at this point, there's either an exhaustion of all this buying, or we're going to try and continue higher. And that's when they hit them right here. And so instead of just always watching just the SPY or the broader averages, at that point you want to look at all the 60s on a lot of the major sectors. And so at that point you saw FAS, also an inside 60 here, right there. And so that gave us a nice clue that things were going to at least come in a little bit, and they certainly did. If you look at the follow-through after that, this was also inside 60 here. And so if we had a chance to go back up, it was right here, inside 60 and back up within the realm of the uptrend, not a problem at that point. But as soon as things started to fall apart, we had things at that point when, like I said, when watching the internals, watching a bunch of stocks, were all the stocks going up at that point? No, they weren't. And you could see stuff like Baidu at that point was going 60 down again and really getting smashed. And so we're watching the internal. So let's say that you did take this trade in the SPY, trying to go back 60 up here. As soon as it comes back into the range, you got to jump ship. That's got to be a clean break like that. And then it goes reversal here. So when you see an inside bar that gets cranked the other way, that's a rejection of this inside here. So this was just profit taken on the short side and then puke. And so when it takes that out, that's a reversal strat back down, and we saw that in the FAS as well, and a bunch of other things. IBB was actually a clean break. So when you look at the different sectors when this occurs, and you can see those others trying to pick up on the 60, IBB couldn't take out the 60 high. So when those things started to reverse, this was definitely on the hit list for the 60 down. And so there were some nice moves on the downside. If we take a look at QQQ here, the same, inside 60, 60 here and down, but not the end of the world. As I'm saying, is here, if you look at the daily, the Qs now need to take this out. As you can see, that SPY took out the slight higher high. The Qs stopped just about where they should have, right there. And so that's going to be important to take out next week. Take this downtrend here out in the Qs. If you take a look at Apple, talked about that this morning as an inside day, and you can see once again that was a reversal strat just like those 60s because it took out the inside day by a couple cents. That's all it could do. And then if you look at the 60 here, you'll see this inside 60 goes up just a little bit, tries to take out the inside day, but then closes back into this range. And that's a reversal strategy on the 60, and then hit it there, and then didn't quite do it here, but right up in there. And it's not the end of the world. I mean, like I said, these are big moves, and so it brings in a little bit, an outside day now, but still within the realm of the uptrend to see how we handle things on Monday. Also talked about the small cappers this morning, and the small cappers did take out the inside month to the upside, 120.56, and then pulled back with the rest of the gang. And so not the end of the world, because if we can retake that, we're back inside month and up, and there's plenty of month left. So it retraces, goes inside 60 to close the day within the realm of this. So we'll be watching how this acts on Monday morning and watching for a rebreak of that stuff there. If we look at the Dow Jones Diamonds, once again, big outside week. And so whenever I see that, I know that there's a broadening formation fractal triangle in there, and you can see it like that. Lower lows, now higher highs. And so I'll be looking to either get through there and hold that as support, or through there and hold that as resistance. Right now we're obviously a lot closer to the upside. So we'll keep an eye on some of the names there in the Dow. In the Dow, we'll be watching inside weeks, like Cat Tractor here and IBM. Obviously having some problems, but when you have such a massive outside week we're going to be looking for a lot of these inside weeks because there shouldn't be anything that was inside with that much volatility. So whichever way these things start to break and give us a good indication of which way we're going to start to look, and I'll get to that in just a second. If there was some real decimation right out the chute here, which looked good for things, was the jump and ship on defensive names. XLU. The Utes got slammed. REITs slammed all day long. And so if you were inclined to the short side, that's kind of where we were living all day long, as well as some of those names that, in a more robust market environment than a Friday that we're looking for some gap and reverses. That's not what happened. If you looked at Yelp, this is train wrecks. The train wrecks from the earnings. And this is a good example of the daily triangle when I talk about triangle becoming support or resistance. When it gaps right to it, it either holds the back of the triangle and reverses. That's not what happened. It gapped here, tried to get back in, and resolved back down. If you go to GoPro, yep, not much of a bounce there neither. And if you go to EXPE, all the gang that was getting decimated early didn't have much of a comeback at all. And then if you look at recently the burritos, once again, once you get killed off the earnings like this, it goes inside day. So the question there, was that going to be the exhaustion of the selling and you could take that high out and go back up, or just a rest before more selling? We got our answer. Bam! And so a lot of that stuff was pointing towards a little bit rougher stuff come the afternoon. However, guys like Twitter certainly held up, and that's good, and that goes above the inside month, holding its gains there. Buffalo Wild Wings, off those earnings, held as well, so we'll see how those do going forward. Then I also want to look at, when you have this kind of movement today where people are like, it's like no big deal. Let's look at the internals. Did it SPY here? Still didn't take out yesterday's lows, so it's still a higher low. No big deal. And then we can look at were any of the sectors staying inside days here. And you got XHB, the home builder, stay inside days. So if we start moving up again on Monday, certainly be looking at that. XRT retail, inside day, still near the highs. If you look at the XME, some of those rocks were getting hit again, but stayed inside day. So those three certainly right out the chute. When I go back and I talk about the weeklies, not after these big outside weeks, there shouldn't be inside weeks. And so some of these are going to be real crucial on which way we go, especially that QQQ line I just showed you. If you look at the Google, inside week for the Google, inside week for Yahoo, inside week for VMW, and some of the tech names there to see how those things break out. In the miners, you got an inside week for the GDX. So we'll see if that can break out of there. And you've got, I believe, ABX is inside week, and Newmont and GG and all that kind of stuff to keep an eye on. And, of course, watching the underlying gold to see how that plays out. Then if we look at the trannies, you got an inside week in UPS to see how that plays out. Certainly a lot more research to be done over the weekend. But for the most part, we've got ourselves outside weeks. And if we start to drop in, we'll look for an inside week next week. But still hanging close enough near the highs of this move to certainly take another shot at that. But we'll have to see how these inside weeks and days play out, what we got coming up for next week. So that's just a little bit touch. Hope everybody had a great week and has a great weekend. I'll see you next week right here at T3 Live. I'm Rob Smith of the In Black VTF here at T3 Live with today's market wrap-up.